All right. It's it's crazy to stand here after Jan Olav having that kind of introduction and getting the passport to Liberland. That's amazing. It was really great to see. Jan Olav mentioned that BitSpace is doing commercial stuff in the Bitcoin and blockchain space. And of course we are a company, so that's what we do. We're also very passionate about blockchain technology and its potential to really change the world. It's a really new technology that can empower completely new things. So my talk today is not going to be so commercial. It's going to be more inspiring, I think. And tomorrow we'll do some talk about our commercial activities and investment opportunities. So my talk today I called Bitcoin and Virtual Sovereignty. And of course, it's really in line with the theme here at Business Week with Liberland. Because the way I see it, virtual sovereignty is what is being enabled now by this new technology. So Bitcoin, the way I see it, is a virtual sovereign entity. It exists outside any nation state. It exists outside any company. It's just a virtual construct. It's a quote from its creator, Satoshi Nakamoto, that it's easy for governments to cut off the heads of centralized networks. But you can't do that with peer-to-peer networks. And that's why nobody has been able to shut down Bitcoin yet. And it's quite obvious that a lot of people have tried. And I'll get into a little bit of history to illustrate what has been going on before Bitcoin came about. You had several centralized digital currencies that people tried to make, like the e-gold in the US. It was a trust holding gold bullion, and it gave people the digital tokens that they could trade in a way like Bitcoin, but this one was tied to the gold price. But the problem with e-gold was that it was centralized. It had weak security because it wasn't like Bitcoin, always exposed to the open internet and hackers, and it was very weak to human error because you have a central point of failure. So it had big problems with hacking, fraud, and a lot of other stuff. Then you had the Liberty Reserve in Costa Rica. They had a little bit different problems. They had problems with the law. There were charges of money laundering, and they were eventually shut down by the US government. A lot of the Liberty Reserve users fled to Perfect Money, which is a new initiative out of Panama. And again, they have problems because US citizens are blocked. They have problems with uncertainty around regulation and the ability to keep going. So this is what came before Bitcoin. Before I go into why Bitcoin is different, I'm going to quickly go over sovereignty, just a little bit about the concept of sovereignty. It's the full right and power of a government body, a governing body, to govern itself without any interference from outside sources or bodies. So it's a self-contained system that cannot be changed from outside by outside forces. And Bitcoin is certainly an example of that. It's a sovereign entity that you can't touch. It can be touched on the edges. It can be regulated around the edges. But the core Bitcoin functionality is decentralized, distributed. It runs in all kind of different jurisdictions around the world. It's a neutral ground. It's not the territory of any government. So about sovereignty as a concept, you can split it into 3 different types. Of course, there are a lot of ways to talk about sovereignty, but I think it's interesting to look at it like this. You have the territorial sovereignty, which all countries have. They have a military guarding their borders, treaties, security policy. You have the political sovereignty, the right to govern your own country. And then you have economical sovereignty, which I think the third one is something that Bitcoin has already achieved. I think the second one, political sovereignty, is something which is being created right now. You have a lot of work on how to govern decentralized way, how to create decentralized autonomous governance systems. And that's the name of the workshop that we planned for tomorrow. I hope that we'll see you guys there. We're going to discuss how you can actually build this kind of decentralized governance around a blockchain technology. I'm sure that Liberland has a lot of experience in this field, and we have the blockchain perspective, and I think we both have something to bring to that. The territorial sovereignty is another issue. I guess that's the hardest part of Liberland, like how can you actually move into this patch of land, the territory itself. I'm going to argue that that's just a small detail. And the territorial sovereignty, you can even look at it as virtual territory. You can create virtual territory, you can create a state in a government in a virtual space. And in a way, that's what Liberland already is doing. I'll get more into that. Just wanted to give a quick run through about sovereignty. You have, of course, different types of sovereignty. Is a country or is an entity accepted by other legal entities, like other countries? Do you have political acceptance around the world? And I guess this is one way to achieve sovereignty. And I would argue that Bitcoin doesn't have that. It doesn't have de jure sovereignty, but it has a de facto sovereignty, which means that they can't be touched. And throughout the ages, there have been a lot of countries, a lot of societies being built on the power to be sovereign. They didn't need the permission of anyone. They used sword and shield. And throughout history, there have been a development of how you can achieve sovereignty. Weapons are getting better all the time. And for the past century, there has, of course, been a lot of... The sovereignty has been determined by who has the biggest gun, right? The US, Russia, Cold War, the whole situation there. I am going to argue that we're moving into a new era now, where you can achieve sovereignty in a different way in virtual space using cryptography. And that's what Bitcoin is based on. So you can't point a gun at Bitcoin and say you have to shut down. You have to actually try to solve or crack the algorithm, the math behind it, the cryptography. So why can't you touch Bitcoin? What is special about it? I plan to go a little bit into the technical details, but I think I'm going to stay a little bit on top, so we don't dive too much into technicalities. But basically, it's permissionless. Anyone can join the network. Anyone can access the network. So it's a voluntary system. It's decentralized and it's autonomous. It runs by code. If you want to know more about how Bitcoin works, we can do that in the workshop tomorrow. Just come and talk to me. I'll be glad to dive more into the technical details about it. But it's essentially an invention from 2008, which started running in 2009, where you found a way to reach consensus and govern a system in a decentralized way. So you don't need a hierarchy. You don't need a central actor, a bank, a government, or anything to determine what the state of the system is, what the truth in the system is. You have several examples of this today. Ethereum, which a lot of people know about, it's a decentralized computing entity. Whatever code somebody puts into the system, and pays for the execution of the code, that code will run. There is no way to stop that. So that's a sovereign computing entity. It can't be touched from the outside. Another example, cloud storage. Instead of Dropbox or Google Drive, you have cloud storage based on blockchain, which, of course, you can completely avoid surveillance. You have cryptographically, you can be cryptographically safe that only you can see your own information because only you have the keys. You have BitShares, which is a financial infrastructure, works in the same way. It allows for a lot of regulation on the edges, but the core of the system is a decentralized governance system based on stake-weighted voting. And it also has its own budget. So it's actually starting to approach as a state or a government, because you can control the budget of the system. In Bitcoin, when you print new money, it's given to the miners. I guess maybe some of you have heard of mining Bitcoins, right? It's a very simple consensus algorithm where computer power determines who gets the newly freshly printed Bitcoins. In systems like BitShares, there is a more advanced mechanism to determine where the money trickles into the system. So you print new money, some of it is given to the people who run the servers, some of it is given to people who do work, who are voted in to do work for the system. And there's a lot of other ways. You can write smart contracts to determine where the money goes. Steemit is the newest and most interesting invention in the blockchain space, I think, because it's a platform that actually drags new masses of users. It's a social media platform that pays the users to post content that becomes popular. It pays users to participate in the voting, and it pays for its own development. It pays for its own administration and running the servers and everything. So this is actually based on the BitShares code. It's even more advanced. It has more. It has a mix of proof of work and proof of stake for those who that means something to. And of course, come and talk to us. We'll explain more to you about these projects.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, sure.
Interesting with all the technologies up there, that one you said is the most advanced or something, but it's also one of the most controversial. So what does it makes this one most advanced?
I don't see how it makes it most controversial.
Oh, I'm not. I'm just saying it's controversial. It's controversial in the blockchain space, but I just wondered why that is more advanced than like Ethereum.
The thing that is interesting about Steemit is that it pulls completely new users into cryptocurrencies. People who never heard of Bitcoin or never heard of Ethereum, they don't even know what's running behind. They just see the dollar sign. They just see the dollar sign under the post. So this is a gateway for people to get involved with cryptocurrencies. They post their it's very easy. Just sign up with a Facebook account or something like that, a Reddit account.
They don't have to be experts.
No, you just start posting, and it's one of the first systems that actually has. It's around 50% women in this space. A lot of women are involved with Steemit, the Steam platform. And it has a system where it rewards its users, so it kind of takes care of its own. Takes care of its own community. There was a conference called Steamfest in Amsterdam a couple of months ago, and everyone who went to this conference, there were 200 people from the Steemit. They just knew each other through blogging on this platform. They all met there, and the Steemit platform or the Steam platform reimbursed everyone for coming to this conference. Everybody got paid to be there. So that's just a little glimpse into the future, the way I see it. I'll move on. I don't know how much time I have, but then we get into politics. I have two examples of politics that make extensive use of blockchain. A BitNation, which is a purely virtual construct. It just exists in the cloud. They are getting some traction with a partner. They're partnering up with the Estonian government with the e-residency program there. I don't work for BitNation. I don't know too much about it. I just paid attention. I've seen it around, and I see that it's growing, and It has a lot of traction. But this is a purely virtual attempt at making a virtual government. And of course, you have Liberland. So what I'm arguing is that Liberland doesn't actually need physical land yet. You're just building your country. You're just doing it. 95%, 99% of the task of building a country can be done without actually going to that patch of land. And let's say you have problems. Let's say Serbia or Croatia, they don't want you there. They just find something. You just franchise it. You just bring it somewhere else. You set it up because the country is already there. The country is built virtually. And I think that blockchain technology is something that empowers this to happen. I think it couldn't happen before. So, there are a lot of use cases. I'm hoping to get into talks with you guys about the things you're doing and see if we have something to contribute from BitSpace, of course. And yeah, thank you.